Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza Ann Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Biz Birthday Bash podcast. We have a wonderful guest here with us today, Fabiana Claure, and she is going to be talking to us all about tips for building a successful online program. I know that so many of you have been interested in doing something like this in your business after pursuing your craft for a long time, and then maybe wanting to be able to help out others, whether you're offering online programs, masterminds, courses, just something that's online for other people. I think this episode is going to be really helpful for you guys because we're going to talk all about developing an online program of some sort. So let me read a little bit about Fabiana first, just so I can introduce her, and then we're going to jump right into it. So Fabiana creates financial and artistic prosperity for musicians so they can win back their time and build a legacy without sacrificing their quality of life. As a concert pianist, university educator, entrepreneur, and a business coach for musicians, Fabiana has helped thousands of musicians create new income. In 2021, Fabiana took the entrepreneurial plunge and quit her full-time university job to focus on creating a lifestyle that embraces ease and flow, free from burnout, and allows her to focus on her business mentorship program called the Musician's Profit Umbrella. She also does a lot of performing, speaking in her career, focuses on her family, and of course, her overall state of well-being. She now helps musicians unify their skills to create rapid financial expansion and purposefully design their lives in alignment with their values and lifestyle goals. So, Fabiana, welcome. I know this is going to be a wonderful discussion. I think people are really going to get so much out of this, and I can already tell you're going to have a lot to share with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, this is our first time we have had a musician on the show. So this alone is very exciting to be able to talk about that artistic expression specifically. So it's going to be great. All right, let's go ahead and get started with, first of all, I would love to ask you to explain your story in your own words. Like, I read kind of like the formal bio version, but if you can do a little bit of like background of how you ended up where you are today in your own words really quick, that would be great. I know I didn't formally like write that down as a question, but we do love being able to ask people that.
Absolutely. And first of all, I'm so grateful for your podcast because you are creating space for artists to understand how to build successful businesses. And I think that is so, so needed. I was one of them. At one point in my career, I realized after pursuing so many degrees in the arts, in music, that I didn't know how to make a living, right? And I'm sure that resonates with many creatives who are listening to your community, to your podcast and everything you're creating. This is a common problem that we are taught how to excel in our craft, whether we are musicians or artists or dancers or any other type of creative. And we're not really taught how to make a living out of it. And so for me, most of my career, I was focused on being the best pianist that I could be. And I performed around the world. I won many competitions and I was just fascinated with being a pianist. And it wasn't until the end of my doctoral degree that I started realizing, oh my gosh, I actually need to learn now how to make a living as a creative, how to make money. And thankfully, I was in a university setting that had a music business program and it had incredible opportunities for creatives to be able to understand how to start packaging their skills more strategically and how to build a business out of their craft. So it was about 12 years ago when my entrepreneurial journey began, where I started studying first how creatives and how musicians and how pianists were able to build successful careers in the arts and not have to give up their artistry, which is something that happens so often, right? When we see artists go into university programs and then they graduate and they realize, now I have to find myself a 9-to-5 job and quit all of my artistic dreams just so that I can make a living. I knew that I wanted something different. So I started learning about the music business and everything related to entrepreneurship. And my husband is also a musician, so the two of us, were graduating together from our doctoral degrees, and we decided to create a business instead of waiting for someone to choose us, to find us. We knew the odds of the two of us finding, let's say, university professor jobs, in the same university were quite unlikely. We just built our own business, and we ended up creating a music school called Superior Academy of Music. It's been 11 years now. And we not only created a livelihood for ourselves, but we also were able to employ many of our colleagues who were also graduating from the university and not knowing what they were going to do. And so it was a really first step in building our entrepreneurial cushion. And then 5 years after running our school, I felt ready for a new challenge. And I knew that I had acquired a new set of skills as a business owner that I never had expected in all of my years as a pianist. And I knew that there were many more creatives out there that could benefit from that. And the opportunity to come to the University of North Texas kind of fell on my lap. And I applied for the position. They wanted someone to come in and build the university program and help creatives and musicians package their skills and build businesses. So I raised my hand and they selected me. They appointed me director for the music business and entrepreneurship program. And I was thrilled to be able to take that position. But then, of course, we had to leave our music school in Florida. And that was a big question mark because at first, most people thought we were crazy to just leave a music school that was profitable, functioning, and just withdraw ourselves from it, delegate it there, and expect that it would continue running remotely without us there. But we made it happen. It was a journey. It was not easy. The first year was crazy, full of ups and downs, but we've been now running it remotely from Texas while the school operates in Florida for 5 years. My husband mainly took the reins of it. And it's just not only been an incredible learning experience about how to build businesses that can end up working without us, but it has informed everything that I do in coaching musicians on building businesses precisely that are not going to suck out the life out of them and they're not going to be draining, that can eventually work without them. So in this process of building a university program and helping musicians create their careers, I also came to a point where I started to feel burned out. I was doing too much. I was building a program. It was nationally ranked on Billboard magazine as one of the top music business programs in the country for 5 years in a row. I was a mother of two at that point, and people kept coming to me asking for business advice and coaching advice for creatives. And so I realized that there was an opportunity for me to serve at a greater level. And that's why 2 years ago, I created my own business program where I now help musicians all over the world package their skills and build their businesses. And last year, I decided to take that entrepreneurial plunge, as you read earlier, and I quit my full-time job to go all in into my online coaching business, which is what I now am very blessed to be able to run and help musicians and creatives all around the world package their skills and build thriving online coaching businesses and teaching businesses.
That's so great. Yeah, I love that. And it's super helpful to hear kind of how your journey has been and how it's evolved so much. I think it's great for entrepreneurs, that we can change our focus. Like you said, you started the school, then you ran that remotely, you stepped into the next thing, and now you've changed to this. And that gives me a lot of encouragement. I feel like I'm always kind of like shifting and changing what I'm doing. So is life. So you've recently kind of started offering this mentorship portion of your business. I think you answered kind of our first formal question really, really well, in terms of like all the timing. And the next question, I know I had worded it a little funny, but I think a lot of our audience, they run into the problem of like, let's say they're creating wedding invitations or they're creating a certain type of art, right? They're trying to advertise and sell their services to clients. Well, what happens when they want to maybe educate people in the industry? What are your thoughts on keeping everything under one brand and one website, or segmenting and starting a secondary website that focuses on education? Like, I'd love to hear how you did it, because from what I can tell, all of your public speaking, your piano performances, your mentorship, that all seems to be on one site. So I'd love to hear your thought process behind that from like a brand building perspective, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And it's such a fantastic question, Elizabeth, because I can't tell you how many times this has come up to me in the classroom setting as well as in my private work with clients. And I don't think there's a one size fits all answer, to be honest. I think it really depends. But on a general basis, I'm a firm believer in the power of personal brand and the power of uniting everything we have to offer and all our experiences, whether they are specific to one industry or whether they include more of our personal story or perhaps any other outside experiences. Maybe you recovered from a performance related injury, things like that, that we have had to overcome as creatives, and really putting them in a way where people can see everything we have to offer and come to us because of that. Now, I understand, and I've had this conversation many times with musicians, creatives who think they need to separate themselves from their products and services, and who go out and create a multitude of different websites and different brands. And I think there's certainly an opportunity for that to happen at some point. But to begin with, and to get things off the ground, I always encourage unifying rather than separating. The power comes in unity. So yes, in my website, you're going to see it all together. You're going to see my side as a pianist. You're going to see my side as a speaker. You're going to see my side as a business strategist for musicians. You're going to see my side as a woman and a mother. Like, you're going to see everything about me, and people are going to be able to understand what are the collection of experiences that I have to offer, and how do those help inform my perspective as a coach and as a speaker and as a musician. I just got back from performing at the Charleston International Piano Series, and that was a great opportunity to be back on stage live in front of a live audience, right? And so all of that is part of, like, you may not see the direct relationship on how it connects with, let's say, the work I do as a business coach. However, I actually do. And that's what I encourage artists and creatives to do, is to go into their creative passion and infuse their business brand building process with that, even if it's not the only way to make a living. It's not their only source of income. So we can talk more about that, but that's in essence what I believe in. And I advocate that as the easiest way to get things going and to strengthen our businesses and our online presences.
I love that. Thank you. I think that offers a lot more clarity, that people don't need to shy away from having it in one place. Like, you're not going to scare off some coaching clients or mentorship clients because you're also advertising your services directly, and vice versa. Okay. So when specifically did you feel like you were ready to offer your online program, and what questions were people asking you most often that made you kind of go, this is something, that's needed, something that I could bring to the world?
That is such a great question. I think I never felt ready, and this is something that I encourage my clients to do as well. I don't think you can ever feel 100% ready to start anything. I didn't feel ready when I started my music school. I didn't feel ready when I started my coaching business. I think it's a process of just being willing to experiment and learn as you go. And of course, you have a basis of an understanding that you can help in a specific way. So of course, in my case, I had already been working at a university for 4 years at that time, helping musicians build their businesses, right? That's what I had been doing in my formal job setting. Let's put it that way. I had already started my own business as a musician entrepreneur with my music school. So I knew that I could help, but the online space is a very different one. It's not the same to work in a brick and mortar music school than to work in a university academic environment, than to create an online business. So even though I knew I had a vast experience that I could use to help, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into when I decided to branch into the online space. But I just gave myself permission to fail forward. That's kind of what I did and what I encourage people to do, not to feel ready and wait until they feel ready, but to give themselves permission to experiment and to go and serve and be able to go back and improve and respond to how their audience reacts, to how their clients react I had certain assumptions of what I thought my ideal clients needed based on the questions they had come to me for, based on the typical issues that I was dealing with already in my job. But it wasn't until I actually started serving them and working with paying clients that I really got to understand what they need, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you began creating the program, how much input did your audience have? Like, how much were you pulling from what people wanted to know versus how much you were like, I'm the expert and this wisdom needs to be imparted? What did that balance look like? Because I think there is something to be said that is helpful of taking cues from what people are asking you for, but also having the wisdom to move forward with knowing what you need to deliver. And I would love to hear how you were able to discern that element when creating your online program.
Yes. And that was actually very interesting because when I started my program, I was still working at the university, right? And not surprisingly, a lot of my first clients were colleagues from other university settings. They were also professors, music professors, people with doctorate degrees in music, just like me, and like very, well educated and academics, right, and scholars. So you'll laugh about this, but when the program started, my clients expected a full blown syllabus, right? For the
Mm.
6 month program. They're like, okay, so where's the syllabus? We want to see the curriculum. And much to their surprise, I let them know that there was no syllabus, that I was going to create the program in real time for them based on the combination of my perspectives, my experiences, but in taking very, very seriously their input and responding to their needs on a week to week basis. So for the first 6 months of the program, I created it week by week based on their responses, based on what they seemed to need the most. Of course, I had an idea of what I wanted for them to go through, but I didn't formalize anything until I gave them bits and pieces and saw how they reacted. So I
Okay.
literally custom made it for my current cohort of clients that I had at the time. And since then, I've continued evolving it and adding it. But to this day, it's been almost 2 years. I continue creating content in real time for my existing clients because I believe that by responding to the most like urgent needs that our clients have in real time is the best way that we can serve them. Of course, the content I put together, drawing from my experience, drawing from the knowledge that I have gained, as well as through, all the work that I've done with my own business coaches and own mentors. But I'm a firm believer in like real time training. And so that's why at this point, when I started, I had no pre recorded library. Let me put it that way. It was all
Mhm.
delivered in real time. And again, my clients were shocked when I told them there is no syllabus. This is not the same as a university, curriculum program that needs to be pre approved by so many committees, and it can take 2 years for a course to, come into the light. This is going to be a different type of program. I'm going to deliver it in real time based on what I feel you all need week by week. Right. So that's how I've done it. And that's how I recommend creatives do it. Because, at some point, especially for my recent clients who've been joining in the recent months, obviously when they come in the program now, they can access a library of hundreds of trainings. And when they see that, they tell me, oh my gosh, I could never do what you did. It would take me years to prepare all of this amount of trainings. And I always remind them. And until recently, I had a client who was with me since the very beginning. She's been with me for 18 months. And I would have her verify that when they started, there was no pre recorded library of trainings. It was all in real time. So I always tell them, listen, you don't need all of this to start. You should just start. And eventually, yes, you will accumulate it, but I don't want you to feel that what you see now is what I did from the very beginning.
Yeah, right. We get completely trapped in a little bit of that comparison game. It can feel intimidating. It's like, oh, well, how am I supposed to start doing that if I don't have like 10 or 12 things to deliver right up front? There's something to be said for going for it and finding that group of clients who maybe does trust you up front to not have a syllabus or not have something working. And maybe they got a little bit, I bet their rate was probably a little different than what you're charging now. Like I'm sure your pricing has changed a little bit over time, and that's something we can look back around and talk about too. Is there anything that you consider a prerequisite or a non-negotiable before people start offering some sort of online mentorship? I know that you said that there's definitely something powerful about kind of going for it and jumping for it and not maybe having a whole list of things in place. But like something that comes to mind for me is like maybe a non-negotiable is having some sort of audience to be able to bring this content to, right? I don't think you can really launch anything without having that, but I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing. When I started my music school back in 2011, I was a pianist and a piano teacher. That's all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
Never in a million years would I know that 80% of what I would end up doing in the business was not teaching piano or playing the piano. Right? It was doing marketing, it was recruiting, it was dealing with customer service, it was finances, it was cleaning the academy. I mean, it was all the things except playing the piano and teaching piano.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happens when we go on to create an online business and we think, oh, I'm going to create a course and I'll just be, serving my clients all day long. It's really important to establish clear expectations of what it means to build an online business. What it means to build an online business means to create a brand. Again, coming back to that. You have to commit as much as you commit to creating the content for your clients, serving your clients. You have to commit to building an online presence. And that means you need to be a clear communicator and willing to add content and add value to your community from a place of authenticity, from a place of authority, from a place of creativity, and commit to the process of building your online tribe, as you mentioned, your community, as much as to serving your clients. You can't build an online business if you don't commit to sharing your perspectives, sharing your beliefs, sharing your thought leadership, not just how-tos, but really letting people understand your convictions, letting people understand your story. Like that is a huge part that I don't think many creatives realize when they see a course or a program online and they're thinking, oh, I'll just make one. But then they need to learn how to build their online presence and they don't want to do that. They have all sorts of blocks and imposter syndrome. So I think releasing that and being aware that, yes, building an online business means stepping into a new way of visibility that doesn't have to be like anyone else. It can be genuine, it can be authentic, it can be in your own, but there needs to be an awareness that will be one of the most important parts of building a business. Yeah. In addition to serving your clients, of course.
Right, exactly. Especially if you're offering a lot of online content, you have to be present in that space to some degree. And I feel like that's always one of my struggles too. I really hate social media. I really prefer like doing this. I like talking to people one-on-one and people can listen to the podcast later. And they can hopefully gain some lessons from that. But you're right, there has to be cohesion. And it builds trust when you stay consistent and when you're showing up and doing all of those things. Let's talk a little bit about kind of back-end things. So the platforms that you're using to host your online programs. You said that you have a library of all of these videos. Are those directly on your site? Are you using, I know people use Kajabi to host videos. There's all these different platforms and ways to do something. So I'm really curious to hear what you kind of decided was the best for you.
Yeah. Yes, Kajabi is certainly a very popular one. I like to look for ways to do things without requiring a big amount of investment or time. That's kind of one of my go-to strategies in everything that I do. So I quickly learned that Thinkific offers 3 free courses. So you can use the Thinkific for up to 3 courses completely free.
Wow.
So free is great. I like free. So I use Thinkific and I recommend my clients to use Thinkific. And so there are some obviously additional features that do require a paid membership. And if you want to opt into those, you can certainly, pay for the, more upgraded versions, but you don't really need to. I recommend looking for, there's so many platforms out there and I think Thinkific is a great one. So I love Thinkific and up until now it's served me well and I'm still using it completely free. And I have 2 different courses there right now. So
yeah. Okay. That's great. I love that because there are so many, and people kind of just have to explore what works best for them. And it looks like, I think your website was WordPress, and so
Mhm.
being able to like integrate with what systems you have built in place is always really important as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so in terms of launching your content to your audience, I was very curious about, I'm assuming that you have some sort of newsletter or email list. So, from a marketing perspective, are you the one that's stepping in to write your launch and email copy? Do you outsource this to someone else? And what kind of marketing platforms are you using for email, for reaching out to people that way? Because I think that's become more and more important to have a newsletter and a way that you can touch people, very personally.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started out, I was a one woman show. I was doing it all myself, as most of us do, right? This is how it goes. But again, because I am a fan of building businesses that don't require us to be part of every aspect of them, and never in a million years did I expect one day to have a school running across the country without me there. Since the beginning of building this new business, I knew that I needed to create systems and I needed to find ways where I wasn't doing all of the different roles for the business. So I did some research and I worked with different experts in marketing and content creation. And I came to the best medium point right now, which is to have like video content that I create regularly through my YouTube channel and my Facebook group and other platforms, and to have my team redistribute that in a variety of contexts, to have it put into blogs, to have it put into emails, to have it put into newsletters based on the video content that I present. I really enjoy just showing up and teaching. I'm an educator at heart. And so for me, that's been the best way, is to focus on making the video content and then to have my team kind of repurpose and extract from my video in all sorts of different formats, put it on different platforms and just do their thing with it without me having to be the one kind of being the one doing all of those things. So that's what I've been able to do. And it's made the whole process of creating content enjoyable, because
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that, again, for creatives, we like to create. We don't like to go in there and just be doing a lot of the other parts of creating and repurposing content and doing all of that. And when creatives get bogged down into doing a lot of these more methodical things and task driven and tedious things, that's when they think, oh, I don't like building online content. I don't want to be an online presence. I don't want to have an online presence, right? It's not that there's something wrong with being an online persona and building an online presence. Is that they're taking on more tasks that they need, and it's making it cumbersome and problematic and draining.
Mm-hmm.
So every time that I find myself doing things that don't bring me joy, that are draining, I try to shift and delegate and find someone who can take that on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And forgive me if I missed that, did you say the name of whether or not you have an email newsletter platform that you
Yeah,
guys
so
really
I
like
use
using?
ConvertKit. Is a great
Okay.
email newsletter platform. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we use
started
the same
using
thing.
MailChimp when I was doing my music school.
Hmm.
And at that point, I would do all of the emails and all of the things
Yeah.
myself. We started writing out newsletters every month. Then we
Hmm.
went into like every 2 months, then every semester, then once a year. Little by little, I started like dreading the email newsletter, putting together all of that. And so, obviously, for a brick and mortar business, it's not that imperative. But for an online business, I knew that I was going to need to create a rhythm that was more constant and
Yeah.
consistent. So far, ConvertKit has worked really well. And,
Yeah.
it's simple. It doesn't give too much options for making it sophisticated with graphics and pictures and all those things, which sometimes those options can be derailing for creatives because we want to start making a beautiful newsletter instead of just send out the content and keep going.
Yeah, I know. It is easy to get caught up in that for sure. Especially for like graphic designers listening,
Oh,
with
yeah.
their eye, they want things to look so beautiful and look so nice. In terms of your online programs, on your website, do you keep these programs evergreen, or are you launching them a certain amount of times a year? Because I know people kind of juggle with that too, of like, well, should I do a live launch every quarter? Should I keep it evergreen? Do I use a sales funnel? Like, what have you found works well for you and your business model?
Yes, when I started, and I think it's a good way to start, I did a live round. So people started June 15th, all of them started together, and they went together through the whole cohort at the same time, and they graduated. It was a 6-month program originally. And that's because I was creating it in real time and kind of putting it together based on the responses that I saw and the needs that I saw. It worked really well. But then again, I realized after my first round that I didn't want to keep going that way.
Mm-hmm.
It helped me to start off, but I knew that I wanted to have an option to bring in people all year round, to make it evergreen, so that people could join whenever I needed people to join and not just based on a specific start and end date. So I switched it, and it was a little bit scary, I'll be honest, because no one had done anything like that in my industry. Everyone was doing it just beginning and end date. So sometimes when no one is doing something, it's not a good sign for you to think you should do it. You wonder, maybe there's a reason why no one is doing it this way. But I decided to give myself permission once again, to just fail forward. And, I knew I could do it the other way. And I said, well, if it doesn't work, then I'll just go back to the other model. But I just didn't want to depend on this one launch, right, where everything needed to happen. And then if not, then I had to wait 6 months till the next one. So I turned it evergreen. And I now have a way for people to join at different points in the year. I open it at different moments when I create different events, different marketing events, different conversion opportunities. I open it up as I decide, basically. But people can come in whenever I need them to, versus based on a specific calendar date. And because the content is the core curriculum is pre-recorded, so people can access it and go through it on their own. In addition to the live touch points that we have every week and the live mentorship, it allows that flexibility for people to come in at different points. Some of them are more advanced, others are more, just beginning, and it allows that freedom. And so I definitely encourage the overall evergreen model to make it more sustainable in the long run. But to begin, I think starting with a live round, especially if you're just getting off the ground and want to get proof of concept and see how things go and be able to kind of create the program in real time for your paying clients, I think doing it live is a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, that's great to hear, because I know everybody has a little bit of a different strategy with that. And I've helped some people create some online programs or courses, however you kind of want to think about that. And we normally do, we do like a registration week for them to have access to videos that are pre-recorded. So it's like a little different formatting in that way, is that whenever they sign up, whether it's in January of the year or July, they're always walking through the same content. But yours has that little element too of kind of, it sounds like adding more sessions when you need to, but still having the library. So are people able to sign up for your program like anytime during the year directly from your website, or do they have to go through a sales funnel first that kind of like encourages them to enroll?
Well, we do have an application process, so it's not necessarily a sales funnel that they have to complete in order to join. We do have an application process where we want to always evaluate who is coming in and what their needs are, and especially to make sure that they are a good fit for the program and that we can really help them in reaching their goals. And I think especially in the program that I have now, which is a 12-month program, it's a big commitment from a time standpoint, from an investment standpoint. So we want to make sure that it's a good fit. So we do have just an application process to evaluate and make sure that what they're looking for is something we can help them, and that they are going to also meet the criteria that we're looking for in the clients who get the best results, right? So, yes.
Yeah, I love that. That's something that people can definitely consider if they're going to be offering mentorship of some point, It's good to make sure that the people who are signing up for it are a good fit, because you don't want them to come back around and say, like, I regretted spending my money, or this isn't what I thought at all, or that's something that can help negate some of that. So I think I heard you say earlier in our conversation that 80% of what you're doing now is related to these online programs and mentorship and your online presence. So is that also true then for how you are generating income and revenue in your business? Would you say most of about 80% then of what you're making is coming from the online portion? Because I'm always curious how that breaks down for people once they decide to switch to an online model.
Yeah. So obviously, I have multiple businesses. So I don't have only my coaching business, I also have my music school. So my husband and I run that remotely from Texas. So I do have the income from both businesses at this point. Although it's a brick and mortar, it kind of feels like an online business.
Yeah.
Because we're running it online, right?
Uh-huh.
So both of my businesses, I mean, I have no like fallback side job anymore, right? I have no full-time job. So that has gone, since last year. So I am basically 100% entrepreneur at this point, between my music school and my coaching business. It's everything that I do right now. So
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, perfect. And to kind of wrap up our call, well, first of all, like before I ask you kind of like the final question we have, are there any things that you feel like I missed asking you that you want to tell our audience about or impart some wisdom? I always like giving guests like a little bit of time to maybe add in any other thoughts, or do you feel like we covered like the basic principles, and of course people can always reach out to you if they have other questions or want mentorship or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I'm very passionate about always bringing to these conversations is a call to action for creatives to not give up on what they love to do, to not give up on what is their passion, and to not feel that they have to choose between passion or profit, but to look at ways that they can package their skills and understand how to integrate those creative outlets that they've developed, whether they're, artists, musicians, dancers, whatever it is, and infuse their business offers with those activities, and to look for how to package their experience in their story, in their life, their heritage, any obstacles they've had to overcome, and see themselves as a comprehensive entity, with a brand umbrella approach versus just like, I teach people how to do this or I do this, but like see themselves from a larger lens and see how that packaged experience can help others. And that's something that I'm very much an advocate for, because for a long time, I struggled to unite all of the different things that I did in my career. I remember at one point, I released a musical album with all of some, piano repertoire that I was performing. And for a serious amount of time, I wasn't playing. I just didn't understand how to integrate my performing side with my entrepreneurial side and make it all come together. And it really hurt. I remember listening to my album like a couple years after it came out and just like falling into tears, just like falling apart, because I missed that thing that made me who I was, right? A pianist. I had studied piano all my life. All of my degrees are in the arts. It's what called me to become who I am. And yet I wasn't doing it because I didn't see a way to make money through it directly.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I can sense that a lot of creatives go through that phase of like, yes, I love to do this, but I don't see how I make money. So my call to action is there are ways that you can build an online presence, an online brand through some sort of like consulting or coaching way, or teaching people to do something that uses that artistic thing that you know how to do, that depends on it to a certain extent. And today I'm very happy to be able to have a business, multiple businesses, and still play the piano and still do concerts and have that as part of my life, and not depend on it exclusively for income, but to use it as a way to strengthen my online presence, my brand, while still allowing me to have that creative outlet to fulfill my passion, which is music in my case. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm very advocate and passionate about helping creatives not give up on that and look for ways to infuse their businesses with those creative outlets.
Yes, thank you. That is so true and so good for us to remember and to think about. Okay, so my personal question for you then is, what do you have in the works for the remainder of 2022 in terms of online programs you're continuing to offer, maybe something new that you're offering, and any specific goals, I guess, that you have for yourself? We always like asking this question just to see, the kind of what their trajectory is for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, well, I have had such a great experience last year and the year prior helping musicians and creatives really scale their businesses and reach milestones that are very unique. So, I've had clients cross six figures in 6 months after joining the program. And now I'm creating a next level program for those clients who are crossing these significant financial milestones and want to not only build a program, create an offer, but really build self-sustaining businesses. So in this new year, 2022, I am launching a mastermind level program now for those clients who are coming in already, having reached those milestones, who are kind of graduating into the next level. Again, what am I doing? I'm building a program for them, right?
Mhm.
I'm building it in real time. So this year, once again, I'm launching a brand new program that is geared towards the clients who are graduating from the early program, from the incubator level. And it's now a mastermind version where people who have gone through the program initially have gotten all these wins. They now want to build teams. They want to create systems. They want to build businesses that work without them. And I'm so excited to be able to have this like next level program based on what my clients now need, which is not the same as when I was just starting,
Mhm.
right? So I'm now in this phase of diversifying my offers and learning how to create curriculums for those who are coming, trying to cross the six-figure mark, and then those who have already crossed the six-figure mark and want to scale to seven figures, and building those different types of curriculums and scaling that. And I'm also in the process of writing my first book. And so
Nice.
I've written half of it already, so I feel comfortable enough to talk about it because
Yeah.
half of it is already there. It's been 10 years in the making. So a year ago, I probably wouldn't have dared to talk about it. But at
Yeah.
this stage, it's been, 50% of it is already written. So I'm excited to hopefully, release the book later this year. And yeah, so, those two things are very exciting for me, but especially to have more time for myself too. I can
Mhm.
talk about professional goals and business goals, but I would say for most of my life, I've worked really hard.
Yeah.
And I think artists tend to do that. We develop that discipline of just persisting and working really hard. And what I really want to be able to do this year is continue achieving, the goals that I set for myself and for my clients, but to do it where I'm also able to spend time with my sons, spend time on vacations, spend time, exercising, going to bed early. And that's for me as important as publishing my book or,
Yeah.
doing all these other things. It's really coming back to my essence, and helping myself stay healthy and energized throughout the process of building a thriving career in the arts is also to take care of myself and really to model that for my community, for my clients, for the people who follow me, that our goals should be beyond just our profession and our financial and artistic goals, but it should be kind of self-love. Loving ourselves should be a goal. And
Yeah.
I want to love myself this year even more than last year.
Yeah, I love that. That's wonderful. Well, tell everybody where they can find you. I know that your website is fabianaclaure.com. So, what other social handles do you have where people can find you, follow, interact with you? I would love to hear those before we wrap up.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that creatives struggle with when they think about packaging their skills is to how to make it in a way that is not overwhelming and that doesn't cause a lot of confusion. I remember the first time I Googled writing a business plan, I didn't even know what the term meant. I literally remember Googling the term business plan. I had never heard about it as a pianist, right? So, when I started teaching creatives how to package their skills, I started looking at shortcuts and strategies to make it in a way that is not overwhelming and that allows people to really have a bird's eye view of what they could create and how to put together a business plan. So I've created a training that is precisely that. It shows creatives how to package all of their skills onto a single sheet of paper. It's called the Musician's Business Model Canvas. And it can really help anyone who's struggling to figure out how to integrate their artistry into their life, how to integrate it into their business, how to see in one single sheet of paper what it would look like to build a business plan. And of course, from there to flesh it out, but to not think they need to come up with a 20-page document, right? So I've put together this resource that people can get through my website as they go to fabianaclaure.com/gift. So all they do is go to my website.com, right? fabianaclaure.com/gift. And they will have immediate access there. They can drop in their email and they can have access to our Musicians Profit Umbrella comprehensive guide to packaging your skills into a profitable online music business. And so I think this is going to be very helpful to anyone who wants to know more about how to do this and what are the steps involved in being effective in packaging our skills and knowing how to build an online business that can really allow us to win back our time, increase our profit and our impact.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, everybody, you can also refer to the show notes to find more information about this. We will make sure that all of that is there for you. And don't forget to leave us a rating and a review. We would love to hear from you guys in that way as well. We really take a lot of joy in reading those. I think you can give star ratings on Spotify now, which is really cool. You can still only do written reviews on iTunes, unfortunately. But if you have questions that you would like answered, you can always drop those on our website at bizbirthdaybash.com/Q and cake. We would love to hear from you there. But thank you so much, Fabiana. That was wonderful. You really had so much wisdom to share. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. And congratulations again on creating this space for artists and creatives to understand how to successfully build their careers and build businesses, not having to give away their artistry. So congratulations on all the work you are already doing.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. All right, everyone. Talk to you later. Hey guys, we just wanted to hop in and talk about one of our amazing resources, the A to Z directory. All of us have thought at some point, how did she do that or how did she make that? And maybe you don't know where to start or how the heck to produce this amazing product you've dreamt up.
Well, the A to Z directory is the missing puzzle piece in your biz, you guys, seriously. So it's built in the form of a yearly membership, and it's your one-stop shop for finding suppliers and vendors for all the things. Literally where to print everything from custom invitations, greeting cards, mugs, koozies, acrylic printing, letterpress, custom ribbon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it literally goes from A to Z. From acrylic printers to zipper pouches, we have it in the A to Z directory.
We want to help all of you search less and create more with this list of 300 plus vendors and suppliers. Don't worry, they're very organized. It's not going to be overwhelming and confusing when you join. And this membership also includes access to a private Facebook community. It's incredibly active and involved. And if you need a question answered fast, that is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, our Facebook group really is the best. You guys, everyone is so helpful in there. And we're in there too, answering questions you guys might have. So it's a great way to get access to us and ask us things without sliding into our DMs. So we're more likely to answer you in the Facebook group, just saying. Anyway, also in the Facebook group, this is new for 2020 and we're really excited about it. We are hosting monthly Power Hour Q&A sessions that are live, and these are only available to our A to Z directory members. So you can hop in with us live and ask us all your burning questions in real time and just hang out with us every month. And we do these at different times so you can actually be there live, and the replays are always available in the Facebook group for members.
This resource is priced at $147 a year, which honestly is extremely affordable and is full of so many benefits, such as exclusive vendor coupons for members only. And we would love to have you guys join. Seriously, it's kind of like our family and our tribe. So visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory to sign up today and use coupon code podcast2020 to receive $20 off your first year. That's podcast, all caps, 2020 for $20 off your first year.
We can't wait to see you in the Facebook group.